Welcome back to Starladder Season 8, ladies and gentlemen. We've got OSG facing off against Four Friends and Krilly for our fourth match of the day. We've got one more match coming up after this, and the draft is well underway, and let's get into it. I'm Zyori. Joining me is Hippie once again here, our debut on the Beyond the Summit channel. Thank you so much for joining us. Big shout out to all the guys over at Beyond the Summit for allowing us to be here. It's been a blast so far. Hippie, my friend, how you feeling coming into game number 4?
Feeling good, man. Everything's been pretty solid so far. That last game was reasonably exciting. Saw one of my favorite heroes, even though he did end up on the losing side. So I'm pretty happy coming into this.
Yeah, myself included. It should be a good game indeed, and I honestly have not seen Four Friends and Krilly since Starladder Season 7 when we were last casting them, so I'll be excited to see how they fare here. They do have a stand-in, of course, but still Boomski, Krilly, Blomberg, and Strangby all going to be making a presence here, guys. Make sure you do support Beyond the Summit. Follow them at Beyond the Summit on Twitter. We're at Zyori TV and at HippieCasting. Again, thank you so much for joining us, folks. Let's get into this draft as it is underway very quickly here. Four Friends and Krilly going to ban out the Visage and the Life Stealer. Pugna as well as the Timber Saw going to be banned out by OSG. OSG. Clockwork going to be that first pick. Outworld Devourer and Weaver are going to be snagged by OSG, and that will open up for a Lich second pick there for 4FC. Outworld Devourer making a showing yet again here, Hippie. It's been a while since we've seen first pick Outworld Devourer action, but it's been coming back. He had a pretty good showing at MLG Columbus. A lot of teams showing us that, hey, an unchecked Outworld Devourer can still get insanely powerful. There are some of those hard carries, hard counters. We see Razor here, third banned by OSG. Can't say I'm too surprised, but OD still a very potent hero. Maybe some teams overreacting a bit to those nerfs and changes coming out of 6.79.
I'm not sure it's so much that they're overreacting, but just such that the players who are really, really good with OD, now their teams are really willing to draft them OD because he's a very powerful hero in the right hands. But since he's no longer, I auto-win every lane and I have the easiest laning situation in the game, he's not that material where it's just like, well, better get my hands on him immediately, regardless of whether or not we have like a stellar OD player, he'll still snowball. So now you have people who are more specialized in the hero, like Mushi, like Arteezy, like we saw at MLG, who are very, very successful. And the other people are like, okay, he's a good hero, but we don't feel the need to draft him because he's just not our thing.
Yep, that's a good way to put it, and that's every time I say that about OD coming back, it's like, well, let's not get too excited here. We saw OD picked by people known specifically for their OD plays. You mentioned Arteezy and Mushi, those two in particular. So fair enough indeed. We'll see how it works for OSG here. Bristleback actually going to get banned out here by 4FC, so we are entering the Bristleback meta, it would appear. He shows up in 2 games back-to-back, and actually going to be banned out here by 4FC. Crystal Maiden going to be that third pick to go along with the Weaver and OD. And 4FC going to break into that little bit of reserve, or what do you mean a little bit? They've got all their bonus time. Going to break into the bonus time, decide what they want to do with this third pick. Lich and Clockwork, 2 very well-rounded heroes. Neither of them really need much of an introduction. Both have just been so popular and potent following 6.79.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, most of these picks, aside from the OD, are pretty standard 7-9 picks. I mean, Weaver hasn't really fallen off despite the fact that he got the base attack nerf. The Crystal Maiden, one of the most popular supports alongside that Venomancer. What I'm liking so far is that, I mean, the fact that you have Weaver and OD, who along with the Crystal Maiden will be able to chase down heroes in the early game and put out a huge amount of damage against what is mostly at this point a pretty squishy lineup from 4FC. The Clockwork obviously is going to be hard to pick off, but the Lich is very, very easy to kill with those heroes. The Gyro now that's picked will be very easy to kill with those heroes. We'll have to see if OSG goes for a more kind of chase and gank lineup or if they want to go for something a little more stable.
Yeah, and I do like the Gyrocopter pickup here. He got a lot of love at MLG Columbus. We saw a couple Divine Rapier pickups, actually more than a couple, on the mighty Gyrocopter. So he's fresh in my mind for sure, always a powerful adversary. And 4FC may want to grab themselves a Naga Siren. She's still in the pool here, and she does pair very nicely with that Gyrocopter to set up the call down well, all that other good stuff. Elder Titan, though, going to be the 4th pick for OSG to go with their Crystal Maiden, Weaver, and Outworld Devourer. Probably going to be in that off lane, but another very powerful hero here in this current patch. Not surprised to see him getting a little bit of love.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's such a potent hero. I mean, just because the damage got nerfed on his spirit doesn't mean Natural Order is any less completely ridiculous. When I was casting with Clairvoyance for MLG, he said and I think I agree with him when I think about it, that because of natural order, Elder Titan is probably the highest damage hero you can possibly draft, because the amount he amps everyone else around him adds up to more damage than anyone else deals over the course of a game. And I don't think I disagree with that. It's
Yeah.
pretty obscene.
All right, so Kunkka, though, going to be the fourth pick here for 4FC. And Kunkka, one of a handful of heroes that really just kind of straight up counters OD in the mid lane. Anyone who has a non-mana-based kind of long-range harass, TA can... we don't really see TA against OD too often, but Kunkka with that Tidebringer works so well to harass back the OD, Razor, DK, all very... prominent picks against the OD. The problem with the Kunkka, though, is you need somebody on your team that can handle Kunkka, one of the highest skill cap heroes that you can pick in competitive, I think. So I always love to see Kunkka, and I'm trying to recall, I feel like 4FC does have someone that's pretty powerful with Kunkka, but it's been a while since we've covered 4FC, and I'm spacing on who's probably going to be in control of the Admiral here in this match.
Yeah, and I too. It's been a while since I've seen 4FC. I don't think Kunkka is an auto win against OD. I think he's strong, like you mentioned, because he's able to harass him out. He's able to still get last hits because he's not losing damage. But it's not, especially with the fact that a lot of ODs nowadays are going to go bottle for that extra bit of early regen, since they're not relying on, obviously you can't go Tranquils anymore, and you can't go Buckler for the free mana regen. You're going to have the bottle for the on-demand burst regen, so you can stay in lane a little better against the Kunkka. So I actually think Kunkka is a little bit less good now than he used to be against OD, even though he can still lane against him, but you're not just going to win a lane against OD just because you have Kunkka. And I think that's the fault of the altered item builds that we're seeing come into play.
And I would say that that's probably a fair assessment. Abaddon going to be the fifth ban here for 4FC, and we've seen that Weaver-Abaddon combo and how potent it can be, especially if it's going to be a Crystal Maiden, Weaver-Abaddon tri-lane. That is a killer tri-lane if I've ever heard of one, so not surprised to see him banned out here. And I think he actually would have been a great fifth pick for OSG. I still think 4FC might want to mix in a Naga right here. It could work well for him. Bane is going to be the fifth pick for OSG. Nice, well-rounded support. Still works well in that tri-lane if that's what they're going to run with the Weaver and the Crystal Maiden, but can't really go wrong with a Bane pick here. We'll see what 4FC want to grab, though, to round off their roster.
No, and he's not only like such an amazing laning support with his high base damage, with his high move speed, with his good spells for not just in terms of burst damage, but he has, so many different options. You can actually go with a skill build based on what your goal is in the lane. But I mean, just in the late game, he still does so much thanks to the Enfeeble, thanks to the Nightmare, thanks to, 300 pure damage never goes out of style, and of course the Fiend's Grip. So he's a support who's really strong at all phases of the game. He does have the problem of being very positioning reliant. So again, that's a hero who you kind of need someone, I feel, who's a little bit specialized in knowing exactly how to position that Bane.
Right. So 4FC going to have about 40 seconds left to decide what they want to do here. I still think Naga going to be their go-to, but will need a support nonetheless. They could try something a little bit different. It sort of depends how aggressive they want to be. Lich is one of those supports that is great in the laning phase, but he doesn't have a reputation for being one of those super kind of killer supports. He is definitely a bit more passive. And no, they're going to go the Chen. Okay, that's a similar flavor, but going to change these lanes around a little bit. Chen, always a powerful pickup. 4FC versus OSG coming up here. Based on the drafts, what are you thinking here, Hippie? Who do you favor?
I think that wholly depends on how long the game goes. I think 4FC has built a very nice early to mid game lineup that can take a nice advantage in the early game. But as the Lich starts to fall off, as your Gyrocopter starts to fall off, maybe if Kunkka falls a little bit behind, and of course Chen falls off pretty hard, if they get past maybe the 35-40 minute mark, depending on how well they do in the early game, I think it turns into OSG's game. But 4FC has an incredibly powerful early lineup, so I wouldn't count on them to throw that away.
Yeah, that kind of mid-game stride will be the name of the game. And I think some of it is going to be how well this Kunkka fares against OD. Again, just to reiterate what you sort of mentioned, Kunkka does hold his own against OD, but it's not an insta-win. And this is one of those matchups where, depending on what those supports decide to do, could really sway that mid-matchup. If Chen can get an early Centaur gank, perhaps, on that OD, things will be really good for Firstly, if that Crystal Maiden rotates in, maybe drops a little bit of that crowd control rotation on old Blomberg here on the Kunkka, things could be really powerful powerful for OD. So this is one of those mid matchups where I think the supports roaming in can definitely have a significant impact, more so than a lot of other mid matchups here. But let's go ahead and introduce our rosters here, as it looks like we know sort of where the laning phase is going to be. Seems OSG may call an audible at the line of scrimmage here, as Big Num going to be on the Outworld Devourer, right now stationed about the bottom lane. He's going to be joined by we just Zik, the stand-in Bane here down in the bottom lane. In the mid, Shomi going to be on the Elder Titan. Looks like he is going to be in that mid lane right now, so it's not going to be that off lane old Elder Titan. Obi-Wan Banan going to be on the Crystal Maiden, headed up to that top lane, and Tapo going to be on the Weaver. Going to be a 2-1-2 coming out for OSG, at least to start things off. Now 4FC going to be on our Dire side. Krilly going to be playing on the Clockwork, probably going to rotate his way down to the bottom lane. He is indeed the off-lane player. They do have a stand-in, I have no idea who this is, Kaleanka Den Galna Lich, gonna be here right now, stationed about the mid lane. We'll see where he ends up. May rotate down to help out that Clockwork. We'll see where he eventually stations himself. We do see Blomberg playing on the Kunkka. He is going to be solo mid up against that Elder Titan. That means there's going to be Boomski playing on the Chen in the jungle, and Strangby going to be hard farming on that Gyrocopter in the safe lane. Right now, Lich is in the mid. Going to burn that sacrifice, try and give Kunkka a little bit of an advantage. And it looks like Lich may actually stay in the mid lane here. I think they're hoping that this will be an OD so they can really pick on him by denying that farm via the Lich. But alas, they will find themselves an Elder Titan. So with that change, I mean, what are we thinking? Kunkka versus Elder Titan. I don't think I've ever actually seen this mid matchup. Pending if Lich stays in the lane, of course.
Yeah, I think this will be largely dependent on... I actually think it's not a good thing for Lich to stick in this lane too hard. He doesn't... Sure, he's going to deny a little bit of experience. He's going to pull the lane back a little bit, but because he's going to be likely leveling that sacrifice a little more, he's not going to do a lot in terms of just straight up lane damage output with the Frost Blast, so he's just going to be taking levels away from the Kunkka. The Elder Titan's going to be able to put out a ton of harass damage with that Astral Spirit. You saw him already stacking up the, attempting to stack up
so you
the
missed
BF
it.
cam right there, not actually succeeding. But, it's just, there's a lot an Elder Titan can do, and when he gets a couple of heroes like this, look, he's got 82 swing damage. If he can just manage to stay in this lane long enough to take advantage of something like that, get one rotation from a support, the fact that he gets all of this damage off hitting two heroes, all this move speed, could be really, really big and could set up for some really huge ganks.
Yeah. And that is one of the great things about Elder Titan. We see how well he's already able to harass Kunkka, taking a fair bit of damage, and they're pretty even in exchanges. Now, down here in the bottom lane, it is a duo lane. Not that solo Outworld Devourer, but it is OD and Bane up against the solo Clockwork right here. So I think they're going to be hard-pressed to kill this Clockwork, which is good news for Krilly. But on that same token, Krilly not going to be able to deny much farm here for this OD, and Big Num already off to a good start. He is 8-3 and picking up, well, pretty close to free farm down here. He has missed a couple of last hits, but he's going to be scary. I think 4FC would be well advised, again, to try and put some pressure on him before things get too far out of control. Not too big of a concern this early on. Hard to rotate those lanes. When you have a Chen, he's stuck in the jungle right now. Lich could rotate down to the bottom and deny those creeps, but not going to be able to do much in terms of setting up those kills too easily, though. You never know. With the Clockwork, one thing I've learned here in 6.79, never underestimate the power of a Clockwork. He catches you in kind of an awkward position. We've seen many a time where that Battery Assault does a lot of damage. We see right now Krilly holding on to some of those skill points. He's level 3, only 1 point in the cogs, and just saving him and trying to decide what he wants to do and where he wants to commit that build to. So it looks like Lich is going to stay around the mid lane, though. He hasn't rotated out. He is just continuing to deny against that Elder Titan, and we'll see how that works out. It is going to bottleneck some of the experience coming in from Kunkka, but I guess they figure, where's he going to rotate to? He could rotate to the bottom, and then that's going to take experience from Krilly, or he could rotate to the top, but Strangby seems to be holding his own on that Gyrocopter. Right now, he is 10-1, and, well, he seems pretty safe here under his tower where the creep wave is pushed up. Weaver sitting 12-6, so a pretty even amount of farm, giving it's basically a solo Gyrocopter against the dual lane of Weaver Crystal Maiden.
Yeah, just, I really, really don't like the dual lane middle. I just can't emphasize that enough. Elder Titan is someone who does very well in an asymmetrical matchup. He's able to get farm, he's able to get levels. He's not going to get as much farm and levels as a traditional solo mid, of course, but he's still going to get something done. He's going to over-level this Kunkka, and he's got 8-1 for his CS. Obviously, he's not the same as the 18-6 on the Kunkka, who is going to do better, but not only because he has the Tidebringer to help him with the last hits, but also because he has that Lich backing him up. But, I mean, the Elder Titan, now he's just going in, taking out some jungle creeps, and he has that option because of the fact that they're Radiant side to accelerate his farm like this. Oh, I really wish the Lich was somewhere else and making something happen, but I don't. Then again, I don't know that there's anywhere better he could be.
Right.
We'll see. We'll see how it turns out.
Exactly, and that's sort of where I was going with it. It's not ideal for him to be in the mid, but not really ideal for him to be in any of these other lanes either. You see Chen, of course, being played by Boomski, did grab a Centaur early. He did smoke up and attempting to move to that mid lane to try and gank the Elder Titan. Unfortunately, the timing not so spot on. That was the exact same time Elder Titan moved into the jungle to try and take out that neutral camp. So a little bit of a missed opportunity there for Chen. Did waste a little bit of time, but still Boomski having a fine time. He is level 4, getting absolute free farm, uncontested in the jungle to Poe. Gonna venture his way over perhaps, but still just fine. One great thing for 4FC though is having that jungler does give them a slightly more efficient laning phase. We see they have a very, very small gold lead, but a decent experience lead already up to about 1,000. Of course, Bane has been moving about the jungle somewhat, but not one of those effective true junglers. Up in the top lane here though, Crystal Maiden going to be in a little bit of trouble, is going to micro her way into the trees. Centaur stun going to be used, but Tapo going to be able to box out the Chen as well as the gyrocopter. That's going to open up a nice bit of counter pressure here coming out, and that's going to be the end of the Centaur. And nice frostbite going to be used. Tapo going to finish it off to get a nice little gold pick me up right there. We do see Lich now rotating to the top lane to try and support this gyrocopter. He's now level 5, can use that healing solve, and it's actually turning into like a tri-lane on tri-lane up here in the top as Bane going to port up as well to join pardon me, the Crystal Maiden as well as the Weaver. We'll see Gyrocopter here get put to sleep. Lich going to take it off. Now Gyro going to go in, going to start to engage on the Crystal Maiden. Going to do a lot of damage, but Strangby taking a lot as well. He very well may be the first to fall. Down he goes. Weaver going to be able to grab that first blood onto the Gyrocopter, and who better to grab that bit of bonus gold than the Weaver. He's not done yet, though. He's going to try to engage on this Lich. He's going to Shikuchi forward, and that should be an easy kill. Geminate attack going to make it happen. What a disaster for 4 friends in Krilly. 2 kills going out the way of the Weaver. That is not what they were looking for. All the while in the bottom lane, Clockwork going to get picked off by the OD. OD now level 7. He did burn the Sanity's Eclipse, though I did miss it as we were watching that double kill up in the top lane. Did you happen to catch the bottom lane, Chris?
I caught the very end of it. He only had to dive a little bit. It looked like Krilly was already on the defensive and tried to cog Big Num out of the kill right there, but just a couple of very strong auto attacks when you have a couple of those 10 int steals, as OD has up right now.
Yeah.
He obviously hits pretty darn hard, and Clockwork doesn't have a huge amount of armor. Obviously, he's got the stout shield, but it just wasn't enough right there.
Yep. So a little bit unfortunate for, well, actually very unfortunate for 4FC. Now this tri-lane up top is, a little bit of a disaster, and now Krilly going to be in big trouble. That's right around that spot where they're both close to level 6. Krilly now level 5, and OD is halfway through level 7. So now there's just a huge level disparity between these two, and it's going to get so much more difficult from Krilly. With OD just continuing to harass that Astral Imprisonment, we see he's got a mana pool of 52. So he's still able to use the cogs, still able to use the Rocket Flare. That is one good thing about Clockwork. He has a lot of low mana abilities up against the OD, but still one and done kind of a deal at this point. So Krilly really going to be hard pressed to maintain lane presence against the OD, and of course tantamount to that, now the OD is going to have a lot of room to continue farming. In the mid lane though, we're going to see some initiation happen. X marks the spot, Torrent combo going to be used on Bane. That'll be enough to secure the kill, but now Elder Titan is in the mix. He is going to be able to finish off the Chen. The boat going to come through. It is going to connect with the Elder Titan. Very nicely played by Blomberg right there. That will make it a 2-for-1 in the mid lane. Chen in exchange for the Bane and the Elder Titan. That's going to be 4-2 here at the 7.5 minute mark. 4FC going to get their first 2 kills on the board, and Kunkka going to further his farm, still leading the way in last hits. Not number 1 on the net worth chart, but nipping at the heels of that Weaver, who's at right now 3.3k, still just farming away in that top lane.
That was such an excellent boat. Just the sense, I mean, he immediately read that the Elder Titan was going to die for the kill. He immediately figured out, okay, if I toss the boat right here, not only will I maybe save him with the 50% damage reduction, he didn't actually get the save, but, I'll land this shot on the Elder Titan, and it was perfect. Absolutely perfect. Excellent boat.
Yeah.
Good Kunkka play, man. You said Blomberg was a good Kunkka.
Yeah. I knew they had a good Kunkka player. I couldn't remember who it was, but yeah, Blomberg he's been spot on so far. That X marks the spot Torrent combo and then the boat. Really, Kunkka is the driving force. They're able to grab both of those kills on the Bane and the Elder Titan. He now has his phase boots to go with the bottle and the magic wand, so he is in good shape. Really off to a strong start here, but 4 friends in Krilly, he really is kind of their saving grace at the moment. Strangby unfortunately getting boxed out a little bit right here. Gyrocopter now level 6, but he's just got no wow, items. Boots of Speed, Ring of Protection, and Blades of Attack. The Magic Wand is really the only upgraded item he has, not even a Ring of Basilius in the inventory yet. So Weaver is just taking control of this lane right now. And look at this right here. He's going to dive to Poe, maybe in a little bit of trouble here. This is a little bit hyper-aggressive. Oh, is going to be able to get that time lapse off just in the nick of time. Now Krilly going to come up. He's going to try and make something happen onto this Bane. Bane is stuck in no man's land right here. And yeah, he's going to micro his way into the trees. He does have a port. He may be able to get out. He's going to try it. And oh, so close. About 0.2 seconds or so, the cogs come out and Strang be able to finish him off. So nice little pick-me-up from the gyrocopter right there. That will be a 1-for-0 exchange, 3-4 as Four Friends and Krilly get closer to leveling it out. Weaver might not be out of the clear yet, though. Lich coming around the backside. Chen going to come in as well. He does have a Dark Troll Summoner as well as a Satyr Tormentor. There is a Sentry down, pardon me. Oh, not going to be. There it is. Going to be able to grab the Ensnare. Thought he wasn't going to be able to grab it, but oh, Lich ulti going to come. Is it going to be enough to finish him off? And it is. The Weaver going to fall. Very nicely done. Lich will secure the kill, and that will tie it up 4-4 here. The gold graph still in favor of OSG, but 4FC holding on to that small experience lead again, mostly because of that Chen in the jungle.
I think he actually could have lived for that if he toggled his treads to strength just before it hit, because it looked like it was a very, very close thing that might have given him just enough to live. Maybe not, but just one of those little things that maybe could have shifted that gauge right there. And keeping that Weaver alive would have been a pretty big deal. I mean, he's doing really well, so you don't want him to get slowed down. You don't want him to have to, make up any sort of space. You want all the space he has to just kind of catapult forward. And not have to, recover from a crappy death. He's already sitting at 45 and 15, sitting second on the net worth chart. So 4FC getting exactly the ganks they need to, quite frankly. And I really like Krilly trying to make a lot of moves. He wasn't doing that well in that bottom lane. He knew he couldn't really do anything against that OD. So he got level 6 and he immediately started TPing around, trying to make space, trying to use the hook shot. Exactly what a Clockwork needs to do.
Yep. While all that was happening, though, although it was good news for 4FC, it opened up a huge window of opportunity for that Outworld Devourer. He's not only been free farming, now taking over the last hit chart at the #1 slot, but also finished off that tier 1 tower down in the bottom lane. So if we look at the net worth, OD is now #1 at 4.6k, and that's really scary. As we mentioned in that picking phase, OD is still a very, very powerful hero if left unchecked, and based on how his farm is going so far, he will be a force to be reckoned with. He already is, quite frankly. He's got the power treads, a nice early mech here at the 11-minute mark, and, well, we'll see what item he grabs next. Oh, the boat just barely going to clip Elder Titan in the mid lane. A hook shot from Krilly going to come in, and that'll be the end of the Elder Titan. Again, Blomberg just spot on with his Kunkka plays so far in this match. Also having a double damage rune on didn't hurt in that little engage. Four Friends and Krilly now going to be able to take the lead in terms of hero kills, at least 5-4, but again, OD still just free farming down here in the bottom.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who this favors. I think 4FC, every time they get one of these little kills, obviously, and slow down one of these critical heroes from OSG, it's a big deal. I really think the Elder Titan and the OD are the two heroes we're going to have to watch pretty much for the entire game, because it's going to... Oh, Crystal Maiden might be in trouble up here. She does get the bugs on her. No, she doesn't, actually.
Wow.
That's,
I call shenanigans on that one. Yeah.
I saw the bugs fly through and assumed they were going for her.
Oh, yeah, okay. I was going to say, that definitely connected. I don't know about that. Yeah, it's one of those moments. So, yeah, no kill is going to come about the top lane. A little bit of caster fail. No problemo, though. So Blomberg just farming away in the mid lane, going to be able to grab himself a haste rune here at the 12-minute mark. Does have a claymore, so no doubt going to be working towards that Shadow Blade, one of those staple items on the Kunkka. Actually, almost level 10 as well. 4FC, again, they've done just such a big rotation to the top lane, and I'm harping on it a lot here, but I just worry so much about an OD free farming. That is just a recipe for a bad time, I think. But alas, we'll see. If 4FC can continue to pick up these kills, it may be worth it, but that hero just becomes so difficult to deal with. We see Krilly up on the high ground here near the mid-tier 1. It looks like he does want to try to hook shot in. He's thinking about it, and there it is. Blomberg ready. Does he have a boat? Indeed he does. Krilly, unfortunately, doesn't have enough mana for the cogs. There we go. Finally going to get enough. Big Num going to pour it in. Kunkka not even going to throw the boat. That was just a lack of coordination right there. Unfortunately, I think Krilly kind of jumping the gun a bit, perhaps. No cogs to follow up. Just made that so sloppy. Of course, while all that was happening, we did miss a kill onto Gyrocopter. Weaver going to be able to pick him off on another solo kill. Oh, this Weaver is a force to be reckoned with as well, and the inverse of that, this Gyrocopter, he's not in good shape, man.
No, absolutely not. I mean, he's just constantly getting pushed downwards, only sitting on Phase Boots, Wand, and a Bass Ring, so it's not like he's completely out of the game by any means. He's 1 and 2, he's got 40 creep kills. He's 5th on the net worth chart at 2,900, but I mean, if you look at that in comparison to the OD, it's obscene. And oh, Crystal Maiden might be in trouble here.
Yep, going to get thrown in that Astral Imprisonment. It will mitigate the Torrent, but yeah, not going to be enough. The Pote going to get thrown, and oh, it is going to connect with Outworld Devourer just barely, though. Clockwork does fall. Oh, the Chain Frost going to come out, going to take a few unlucky bounces into the creeps. Unlucky from the perspective of Lich, of course. So far, it's been a 1-for-1 in this engage, but OD in a little bit of trouble. A nice Torrent going to connect, and OD will fall. Let's make it a 2-for-1, and the Call Down going to connect with a couple of heroes now. This is kind of a chaotic exchange. Four Friends and Krilly not getting the better of it. Right now it is a 2-for-3. They're in full retreat mode. Strangby and Blomberg, the only two left alive. Torrent not going to connect, and OSG will come out ahead right here. Now going to be 9-7 at the 14-minute mark. They get the better of that exchange. The gold graph really jumping in their favor now. Just about 3,000 gold, and finally grabbing the experience edge as well. Though it's not all bad. 4FC's Kunkka going to be able to grab himself a Shadow Blade. That is a nice core item. He's also going to be level 11, so that Ghost Ship going to be a bit more potent as well, but still OSG kind of off to the races right here. Weaver getting close to a BKB first, has the Mithril Hammer and the Ogre Club, and once he grabs that BKB, he's going to have a bit more survivability and the potential for more aggression as well.
Yeah, and I think the Kunkka, I mean, I was talking about heroes you're going to need to watch out for on OSG. I think 4FC's saving grace is going to be this Kunkka. If they can execute, especially with the clockwork to set up for him, and I mean, the Gyrocopter doesn't need to be in these fights as much. He does need to get off his ultimate if there's a significant fight, but I think he's going just a little too far in, trying to be getting a little too aggressive on occasion, trying to get all that rocket barrage damage out, instead of just getting the safe flat cannon damage off, and it's costing him. I mean, he's getting zoned out, and even if they win a team fight, or if they trade okay in a team fight, he still has to go back to base and heal. He spends time. He doesn't have life leech or regen or anything to let him sustain himself after those fights. And so you want this Kunkka to be getting off those clockwork setups, getting his damage out. He has that Shadow Blade, as you mentioned, so he has a huge amount of burst. He's level 11, doing very, very well. He's got the Ghost Ship. He's got the Torrent at level 4 now. So he can definitely get a lot of damage out with that Shadow Blade and the level 4 Tidebringer on top of that. The problem is that Krilly has to be ready to go at the right time. He can't jump the gun like he did a couple minutes ago. He can't get caught out of position, and a lot is going to rely on him to set up for Blomberg to get more than just a couple people, more than just whoever he can get with X marks the spot, because they need to catch a couple people with these combos.
Right, and one of the problems with this Clockwork right here is Krilly is just so underfarmed. You know, a Clockwork, a very powerful hero at this stage, but he's going to start to fall off a little bit more, and without those items to help carry him, he's going to be in big trouble. Here we see OSG getting very aggressive. They're going to put the Clockwork to sleep to start things off. Astral Imprisonment going to be used on Blomberg as well. Oh, the Fiend's Grip going to come out. He is going to throw the Ghost Ship, not going to connect with much, but just sort of a last-ditch effort. A nice call down, a big Chain Frost going to come out as well. Mech going to help pick him up, not going to get the lucky bounces they were looking for. It is only going to get a couple, and it's going to be a 1-for-1. Crystal Maiden did fall. Make that a 1-for-2. The fight's not over quite yet. Wow! The Elder Titan going to be able to finish off the Lich as well with that Astral Spirit. Now Krilly in trouble as he pops out of sleep. Oh, this is just a massacre. 4FC in big trouble here. Hippie 1-for-4. The only one remaining is that Gyrocopter, and he is headed for the hills. OSG going to be able to grab themselves a tier 1 tower kill in the mid lane to follow up that fight, and may even be able to grab themselves a tier 2 tower kill as well. It's still early on. 4FC have pretty short timers here in terms of their respawn time, but oh, that fight just couldn't have gone much worse. OSG with great initiation right there.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about how the Kunkka combo is one of the critical things. If he gets caught out like that and doesn't get to get any parts of his combo off or any of his damage output, you saw how badly that went. He is really their saving grace in terms of farm, but if he gets picked off, he can't be the one up there sieging towers. I mean, especially when they don't have warding, really, covering the possible avenues of approach to that tower. They obviously didn't see anyone coming, or they would have backed off. So if you know that 5 people are off the map, you know that you're the most important hero in terms of initiation, you can't be sitting up there in melee range of a tower ready to get initiated on. Right. It was just bad positioning.
Yeah, really was. And the ward coverage as well. We see a ward up here, but it's just a Radiant ward, so they had no clue it was coming. We are going to see initiation in the mid lane, though. 4FC are ready for a bit of vengeance. They are going to catch the Bane. Compliments of Krilly, Hookshot, Cogs, Battery Assault combo. Oh, Jesus. They're going to be able to grab themselves a tower kill as well.
Going to pick up the tower kill. Strangby going up to the top lane, just trying to farm it back up. We do have Krilly just kind of breaking off, trying to get something done. And just, I mean, OSG, obviously, they're getting a little bit better a little bit worse than what they've been getting in these past few fights, but they lose the Bane, they lose the tower. It's not about to dip them down too far. You see at least more than a 5,000 gold advantage and a 4,000 experience advantage still in their favor, and I mentioned during the draft that I really thought that 4FC had the stronger early mid-game lineup and that OSG would take it if it went late. They're already ahead at about 20 minutes. And I think that's a bad sign for 4FC. They can still make it happen. They still have really strong mid-game combo. They just have to get the execution down. And the one thing about their lineup, if they've picked a very execution-heavy lineup. They need this combo to land right now.
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons why I was thinking that Naga Siren would be such a good 5th pick instead of a hero like Chen. I mean, Chen is very powerful, no doubt, but that Naga ulti just makes it so much easier to set up that combo. The call down, the boat, and the Chain Frost as well. You can really drop that combo much more easily when you have a really easy initiator like that. Right now, they're just relying so much on those clockwork hook shots, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's still a much different kind of initiator than that Naga Siren ulti, which is so easy to use. But I like what 4FC are doing right here. They are going to group up and continue to knock down these towers, recognizing they're starting to fall behind a little bit, just trying to find some gold about the map, trying to take some team fights at this mid-game stride we've talked about. But look at OSG with the positioning. They're going to come around the backside. Krilly going to connect with Big Num with that hook shot, going to throw the cogs out, but he's going to get astraled right away and force staffed out to safety. Oh, Courier going to get picked off as well, but this fight, a 1-for-1 so far. Crystal Maiden and Clockwork going to be the 2 to go down. OD now going to fall. It looks like 4FC might actually be able to do this. Gyrocopter going to finish off the Bane as well. Boomski in a bit of trouble. That BKB complete on the Weaver now. Stringbee going to grab himself a triple kill, but he is going to fall in the end. Right now it's a 2-for-4. Weaver the only one left alive. Can Tapo survive this? He did just use the time lapse. He has 2 ports in the inventory, and he's going to try to micro into the trees, and I think he's going to be able to TP out to safety. And yeah, he's going to go for it here, and they're not even going to try and chase him down. So sort of a chaotic exchange right there. I thought we might see OSG get the better of it, but 4FC knew exactly what was happening around the backside, and you know, they sort of turned that into a 5v3 and then a 5v2 instead of a straight 5v5 engage. So a noble effort from OSG, but alas, their efforts were thwarted with superior map control and engaging for 4FC.
What really happened was OSG was going in for a really nice rotation, and it looked like they were going to sneak up on people, and then the Courier flew over them, and the Courier died from 4FC, so they got that pick off, but it ended up, because it delayed them with the time they were taking, getting the Courier, they ended up getting engaged on in that very, very tight ramp up into the dire jungle, so all these abilities that are so incredibly powerful in tight spaces, the Gyrocopter ultimate, the Clockwork Cogs, all the Kunkka spells, and the Chain Frost got off literally every single bounce. They couldn't split far enough. Maybe 1 or 2 of them went to neutrals. The rest of them were just destroying the entirety of OSG. And that's exactly what we were talking about. If they get off all their abilities, they have so much team fight damage. And they finally did, and look at how well they did. Yeah.
And that gold graph starting to sway more so in favor of 4FC. The lead only about 2,500 from OSG. A nice change of pace given that it was 7,500, you know, just 5 or 6 minutes ago. So things are starting to look better for 4FC. Experience graph just about zeroed out at this point. And glancing at the item tab, I don't see too many other big item pickups here. But we are going to see Bane get picked off. Clockwork going to connect with a hook shot in this fight starting... Oh, man, I just screwed up the camera control. Sorry about that, folks. Oh, man, that phone threw off all my momentum here. But Bane is going to get picked off. And I have to give Krilly a lot of credit. He's been so under-farmed this game, but he's made such a great recovery. He's been nailing those hook shots. He's now got his power treads. He's picked up a bracer for a bit of additional survivability. And he's going to turn that bracer into a set of drums. So, you know, he's getting those kind of recovery items. We go back to that drum item quite frequently and how much of a bang for the buck it is in terms of stats and survivability. So I think a very smart choice for Krilly here. We're going to see 4FC try Roshan, but this is a little bit risky. They don't have a lot of minus armor. Not going to be able to take Roche down very quickly, down to about 1/3 HP, and we're gonna see OSG try and make something happen here. Chomi gonna get pushed up to the high ground from the cogs.
Eclipse just came up.
Oh man, very unfortunate. Roche is gonna fall. Kunkka gonna be the one to grab the Aegis, and now this fight gonna start to engage. Who's gonna be able to get the jump on who? We're gonna see the Chain Frost come out. Not gonna catch any bounces. Well played from Chomi to make it out. The call down, both call downs actually, not going to connect either. So 4FC not going to lose anyone. They will walk away with the Aegis and the Roche kill, but unfortunately not going to be able to grab any of those follow-up kills. A noble effort, but OSG really with just the superior positioning right there.
Well, I really, really think that 4FC, they noticed when they went in, when the Clockwork picked off the Bane, they noticed that the Earth Splitter was used right there, and they said, okay, there's no Earth Splitter. We know it'll take a while for the Sandy's Eclipse to still be off cooldown. We can go take Roche right now. So it wasn't about, oh, we have a lot of kills, we can take this down. It was about they don't have the resources available to try and shut us down right here. They have these 2 amazing Roche Pit spells that are on cooldown. So we're able to go in, we're able to take it down, even if we have to spend a little bit of time there. And then, you know, burning the Chain Frost, which is now only down to 115-second cooldown. It's not as high because he's level 11 now. And, of course, the call down, which which is always a very short cooldown. It's 50 seconds right now. To zone OSG out right after that and make sure that they couldn't actually chase, they couldn't punish the Roche attempt. I think that was very, very good usage of those ultimates.
Absolutely. And speaking of recovery, this gyrocopter now going to be able to grab himself a BKB following that Bracer, Aquila, and Phase Boots. He's in slightly better shape. I would hesitate to say he's in good shape, but he's made a lot of recovery. Strength B now 4-2-1 as well. So he had a rough start, but really starting to turn things around. One of the scarier portions of this match in terms of statistics is that Weaver 7-1-4. He's been having a great game so far. And looking at hero levels as well, Weaver and OD are topping the charts. Level 15 on the Weaver and level 14 on that OD. So still a nice gap in those top level bits of experience. 4FC going to rotate down to the bottom lane. They will clear out that bottom tier 1 tower, and that does level out the tower count 3-3. All 6 of the tier 1 towers have been taken out, and all 6 of the tier 2s are still standing. But did you see that big item pickup, my friend? Weaver going to grab himself a Desolator, and that is a big item pickup here. He's going to be level 16 soon as well. That time lapse going to get a little bit more potent as well. That Weaver is now a force to be reckoned with, and that minus armor really going to hurt. A fair bit of armor on 4FC, but still, Desolator, a big item pickup for sure.
It definitely is, but we also have to remember that the ice armor is starting to come out from Lich, which is going to be a really effective counter to most of that Desolator bonus damage output if he can get it off on everyone.
Yep. And, oh, there's the hook shot in. Krilly might be in a little bit of trouble here. The Fiend's Grip going to be used. Krilly going to be the first to fall. Boat going to fly, as will the call down. Going to connect with a couple. BKB is going to be popped. Now the Kunkka going to be the next to fall. This is not the fight 4FC we're looking for. So chaotic. He's going to pop back up. Compliments of the Aegis, but this Weaver is doing so much damage. OSG with almost all of their heroes now down to red health. Kunkka going to try to clean it up, but oh no, is he going to be able to do it? Chomi going to be forced into the trees. Oh man, that is just so bad. An ultra kill coming out for Tapo on the Weaver. Oh, that was just a disaster.
OSG lost one hero that entire time. You saw all of their heroes. If you looked up at their health bar near the end of that fight, they were all on like 50 life, 100 life. And they were just able to disengage. Such great usage of all their abilities. Really great Force Staff usage, Imprisonment usage coming out from Bignum on the OD. Let him get out. They were playing the margins so well. And 4FC is running around trying to finish off these low health heroes. Tipo running around, tearing people apart with that brand shiny new Desolator you were talking about. Destroyed people. That ultra kill, absolutely huge.
So now I mentioned Weaver 7-1-4 before that fight. Now going to be 11-1-4. Weaver effectively snowballed at this point. Following that fight, let's see, how much gold does he have in the bank? Oh, about 2,500 gold following that fight. Now level 18. He is absolutely out of control. If you look at that net worth chart, he is leading the way with flying colors. Now basically a complete item ahead of everyone else. OD and Kunkka in the positions 2 and 3. We are going to see Crystal Maiden get engaged on here by Krilly. The hook shot is going to connect, caught in the cogs, and of course that battery assault just going to tick her down. Going to be a free kill for 4 friends and Krilly right there, but only on the Crystal Maiden following that fight. That seems like a very minor victory amongst that huge defeat they suffered down in the bottom lane. Boomski going to be in some trouble here as well. We're going to see Bane connect with the Fiend's Grip. Weaver going to come in. That's going to be an easy kill. They get 1 for 1 across the map here. Weaver going to grab himself another kill. That's not going to be 12 on the board. He is beyond godlike if they manage to pick him off. That is going to be a big bounty. I think about a 1,200 gold bounty on that Weaver. So there is definitely a target on his back at this point, but 4FC, I guess, recognizing they're up against the ropes, they're just going to keep the pressure on. I think they realize they can't win the all-equals farm battle at this point, and they are going to pressure that tower. Weaver going to go forward here. There is a sentry down. Uh-oh, Tapo going to burn the BKB. He has not a care in the world right now. Lich going to get melted. Gyro going to fall shortly after, and Blomberg, well, he's going to survive compliments of the Shadow Blade, but wow, Weaver just... He's the destroyer of worlds, man.
Yeah, his damage output, and he's got the Demon Edge now on top of that, so swinging for about 250 damage, along with that -7 armor, it's getting a little ridiculous. He's going to have an MKB and another 1,100 gold after that pair of kills. He's getting so much just over the past couple of minutes. He's spiked. I mean, he was maybe a couple thousand gold ahead before, or maybe even close to where Blomberg was before that bad team fight that 4FC had at bottom tower. Now he's leading Blomberg's Kunkka by 4,000 gold.
Yeah.
So they've created a huge margin for him, and now the OD is tied up with that Kunkka. The Kunkka who previously was farming very, very well, was making things happen. He's going for his Daedalus. He's going to have it in just one more set of creeps right here. So they can definitely still execute their ways into this. I can't emphasize enough how much damage 4FC's combo is. And they can win any team fight if they connect it properly. The problem is, again, it's a high barrier of execution to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the other issues as well is as more BKBs come out, it's going to get more and more difficult for 4FC. We see one on the Weaver, as we've seen in the past few team fights, but now Big Num on that OD is going to have himself a BKB, and that's going to make things a little bit more difficult for 4FC in terms of trying to land that combo. But wow, a big item pickup on their side of the fence. Daedalus now in the inventory of the Kunkka. He's level 16, so he's got the level 3 Ghost Ship down to a 40-second cooldown, and yeah, he's going to be hitting hard. We see Lich just getting annihilated by the Weaver. Just a couple of right clicks, that one last Geminate attack. Weaver, just against a 1v3, a couple of right clicks, Lich falls, and Weaver just runs away. I mean, at this point, 4FC need to be grouped up just to try and prevent the Weaver from absolutely destroying him. Here we're going to see in the mid lane, initiation onto the Kunkka, Fiend Script, followed up by the OD auto attacks, and the Sanity's Eclipse as well. Kunkka going to fall before he can get any of his cooldowns off, and yeah, that's just going to be a 5v3 across the map here. OSG going to be able to press up the mid lane. They should be able to grab this tier 2 tower without too much issue, and may be able to start pressuring this tier 3. I mean, what can 4FC do here?
Not a lot with Kunkka dead. I mean, Kunkka is a really big linchpin in this whole thing. He's a lot of disable. They need, because of the damage output from OSG, they really need that Coco's Rum buff to be able to fight. And so they're going to get 2 towers out of this easily, OSG is, just because without the Kunkka available, I wouldn't feel comfortable fighting if I was 4FC. He's your most farmed hero. He's got your most important team fight abilities right now. The Gyrocopter ultimate, not as big as the boat. The Lich ultimate, not as big as the boat. And, you know, other heroes are just kind of, what's the Clockwork going to do at this point? Krilly's underfarmed. What's he going to do if he's not setting up for Kunkka specifically?
Yeah. Oh, you're exactly right about that. Another BKB going to be picked up on OSG. This one in the inventory of the Elder Titan, and I chuckle a little bit because Bane just sitting on 2 bracers. He's like, we're doing all right. Let me just grab another bracer for good measure. Not so often you see just the double bracer build, but it seems to be working for him here. He does have about 1,500 gold in the bank, and here OSG just going to go ahead and jack this this ancient stack. Not a very large stack, but still going to be able to take it out. And, well, just further their gold lead a bit more. Now that gold graph just skyrocketing in favor of our Radiant side. OSG leading by about 12,000 gold, 15,000 experience. And at this point, they are just commandeering the match. Big Num on the Outworld Devourer, now with a Mystic Staff, probably going to be working towards a Sheep Stick, which will be very scary indeed. And Weaver, if he hasn't picked up that MKB yet, he certainly has enough money to do so. It's still sitting on that Demon Edge. And, we'll see what he grabs here. Actually, not going to go for the MKB, just going to go ahead and grab himself a Weaver. So I said Weaver. He's going to grab himself a Reaver. Just a casual Demon Edge for now. I'm going to go slightly more tanky. But, yeah, this Weaver is just so scary.
Yeah, I think he's okay to go a little bit of tankiness, because if he can just kind of chase down several heroes and not worry about getting killed, he's just got to be kind of the terror that flaps in the night, man. I mean, forget Night Stalker. It's all about Weaver right now. He's gonna chase you down. You're not gonna be able to kill him between his 2,100 hit points, Shikuchi, his time lapse. He's got a million ways. Even if you start to lock him down, he's got the BKB. He's gonna go in on Stramby right here and might even be able to kill him outright.
Yeah, very well may be able to do so. You're right. One more auto attack ought to do it. Is there a Shikuchi coming forward? No, he's going to turn. Not going to commit for it. I think that was probably the smart choice. May have had to pay with his own life. There is a large bounty on his head, but although he didn't secure the kill, still shows his power relative to that Gyrocopter. I mean, that was just a couple of right clicks, and Gyro, well, he just can't stand up to it. So I think you're right, though. I like the idea for Weaver to go a bit more survivability based. I mean, he's got the damage right now. He just needs to be able to survive these team fights. And I think Heart is going to be a golden ticket to that, to achieve that front. And I thought I saw another big item pickup, but perhaps not. No. Ghost Scepter on the Chen, though, is good.
Force Staff on Crystal Maid.
Yeah, that's what it was. Thank you. Yeah, Force Staff on CM going to help just a little bit here. The support items starting to come out. And
now Bane, too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Bane working on his Force Staff.
Force Staff is really, really good.
Especially against a Clockwork.
Yeah, especially against a Clockwork, and especially when, you know, for either chasing or disengaging. Like, if you end up in a bad engage, if people get caught in that Kunkka stun, Force Staff a couple of people out of it. If people are, you know, getting caught in the Lich ultimate, Force Staff away. Yep. There's a lot of very, like, tight controlled AoE on the side of 4FC that's really, really good if you get stuck in it, but Force Staffs, of course, are a very, very easy way to get you out of it. So you don't get stuck. You know, if a double cogs from Krilly on an important hero, now nowhere near as big, because both those heroes get Force Staffed out.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Looking at all their heroes, every single one of them can sort of be at least loosely countered by a Force Staff. The Call Down, the Chain Frost, the Cogs, the Boat, all that stuff. Force Staff is kind of your saving grace, so not surprised to see it. That's 3 Force Staffs now, 1 on the OD, 1 on the CM, and yeah, there's going to be 1 on the Bane once it gets delivered via the Courier. So that mobility going to come in handy here, and once Big Num finishes up that Sheep Stick, that's when things are going to get really scary. They're going to have that crowd control. They can Force Stick forward for the initiation, as we've seen Bane do he's been Force Stabbed forward a couple of times, and that's how they set up that last fight to initiate on the Kunkka. The Force Staff forward into the Fiend's grip, and if they can do that same sort of a thing except with the Sheep Stick and catch the Kunkka, or perhaps catch the Gyro, going to be very difficult for 4FC indeed. Smoke going to be used here by 4FC, though. All 4 of them grouped up about the Dire Ancients. Kunkka going to be joining the mix here. He's not smoked up himself, but he is going to press the lane a little bit, maybe hoping to bait a small bit of OSG into this bottom lane. They are going to hide behind the trees here looking for someone, and they may actually find them. OSG all grouped up about the Radiant jungle right now, and this very well could be a 5v5 engage. There's the hook shot, going to connect onto the Outworld Devourer, going to be able to hop out of the Cogs right away. The Fiend's grip going to be used on Clockwork. The BKB is going to be popped. Clockwork taking a lot of damage. First of all is going to be the Gyrocopter. Down goes the clock now. This Weaver just doing a ton of damage. A nice Chain Frost going to come out, going to take a lot of bounces, doing a lot of damage here. That is going to secure a couple of kills, but it's not going to be enough. 4FC going to end up trading 5 for 2. At this point, I think they're just too far behind. It was a beautiful Chain Frost. They did a good bit of damage, but OSG just have the superior levels, superior items, and all in all can just survive that damage much more easily than 4FC. It seemed like their team was doing okay, and then all of a sudden, they just got melted. That Sanity's Eclipse also doing a good bit of damage there.
Yeah, and honestly, the only thing that could have gone better in that fight, the Kunkka was still kind of far behind, so the Boat and the Torrent didn't combo up with everything else. And another big thing, they didn't have that rum buff, so they didn't have the 8 seconds of 50% damage, which maybe would have let them pick someone off. But at this point, the Weaver is so tanky. He got his heart finished right before that fight. Yeah. Like, it was just as that engagement was getting started. So he's sitting at 2,800 life. He's got all that regen. Obviously, now he can just push up bottom lane. He doesn't care. He's maybe 600 gold to the MKB if he wants it. He could also go Daedalus if he feels like it. It's not like anyone's going to have evasion anytime soon over on 4FC. So he he could even just go Daedalus. Wow, I almost called it Daddyless for jokes sakes. I don't even know. But if he goes that Daedalus, obviously he'll be able to rip through the Kunkka, rip through the Gyrocopter even faster than he already is. And the other heroes already, I mean, the Lich is food. The Chen is food. They die in like 5 auto attacks, tops.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right about that, my friend. And a Sheepstick now completed on the Outworld Devourer as well. Assault Cuirass just about finished up on the Elder Titan. He's got the core pieces except the Hyperstone right now, and he's got 1,100 gold in the bank, so that's going to be an AC coming out before too long. At this point, I think 4FC are just in big trouble. About a 20,000 gold lead, a 25,000 experience lead for OSG, and at this point, I think it's just a matter of time, certainly in their hands to throw, to say the very least. Of course, following that team fight, I don't think we mentioned it, but they did finish off Roshan, the Aegis ending up in the inventory of the Outworld Devourer here, so that's going to make things even more difficult. They're going to have to kill OD twice, and he's at that point where he is just hitting like a Mack truck with the brake lines cut, cruising down the freeway. He is out of control. Maybe not as out of control as the Weaver, but they're cruising in tandem for sure. Weaver going to spend his gold. What did he grab? It's going to be a Daedalus, so good call, my friend. Crystallis and Recipe on the way. Right now, Weaver does not have enough for buyback, though, so that's one thing just to keep in mind if they take an engage in the next couple minutes here. He did just burn all of his money to finish up that next core item. Probably not going to be a big deal, but just food for thought. Maybe grasping at straws a little bit here, but I don't want to say hope is lost for 4FC, but it's looking very dark, as they say.
You don't want to say it, but it really feels like it. Yeah. I mean, I've said it several times. I really do feel with perfect... I mean, here's the problem, is every time OSG wins a team fight, the execution requirement for 4FC to take the next one goes up. So they were already having trouble kind of chaining everything properly at the start. There were a couple really good fights and a couple less than good, more iffy fights. And so at this point, they pretty much have to be completely perfect. They need the perfect Chain Frost, you know, the perfect call down, the perfect boat. All that stuff needs to connect. And if it does, I still think that they can get some stuff done here. The Weaver may just be too much depending on the time lapse. The other problem is they don't have a lot of solid lockdown for the Weaver. So he's almost always going to get that time lapse off, which is in fact a really big deal. Having to kill him twice. You don't have a stun you can throw out at the very last second to try to deny that and finish him off. You don't have a really long thing. Like, you don't have Fiend's Grip, for instance. You don't have something like, oh, wow. You don't have something like an Alchemist stun. But yeah, Kunkka going down, that's a big deal. Does he have buyback? No, he doesn't. That should be high ground easily for OSG.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe a little overzealous there, burning the Sanity's Eclipse. I'm not sure Kunkka was getting out of that one either way, but I wanted to make sure it was a sure thing, as it may be. 50 seconds with Kunkka in the grave. I can't fathom a reason why OSG shouldn't be able to break some tier 3s here with this push. We see Weaver in the bottom lane while the remaining 4 members of OSG in the top lane here, so they are going to split push it. Call down going to be used to try and clear out this creep wave a little bit, and Mech going to get popped right away to at least keep a couple creeps alive so they can start pressuring this tier 3, but Weaver going to pull some of their pressure. They absolutely do not have the tools at their disposal to deal with this split push. I mean, Weaver alone is just so powerful, while the rest of the 4 are just pressuring that top tier 3. And at this point, 4FC just getting pulled apart. Really not much they can do to try and defend this push. They absolutely need the Kunkka to try and take a fight right here. Kunkka is going to be coming up here in just about 5 seconds, so they may have an opportunity to defend. Glyph is going to be used. Weaver going to use that time lapse to get a little bit of health back. Top tier 1 tower, or pardon me, top tier 3 tower is going to fall, so it is going to be melee racks, or both sets of racks exposed. And, hookshot going to be off the mark here, so Krilly not going to have that initiation tool to follow up. Weaver now going to be able to finish off the tier 3 in the bottom lane. Weaver playing this very well back and forth, continuing to poke at these structures, but not overcommitting. Definitely needs to be careful. Can certainly feel a little bit more safe knowing that hookshot is off cooldown, on cooldown. Dust going to be used, so Weaver is dust right now, something else he's going to have to deal with, but yeah, this is going to be it. Kunkka comes up, but he's going to get caught in the Fiend's Grip. He's going to get taken out right away from the OD, not going to be able to use any of those cooldowns, and at this point, I think we're but moments from a GG here, Hippie.
Yeah, absolutely. Now OD showing that, hey, you know, Weaver may be taking all of my credit recently, but I still put out a whole ton of damage. And look at him just ripping Lich apart, even in that fountain. This is definitely GG. I mean, when Blomberg got picked off a second time, that was pretty much the end right there. And also just before that push in, never got a chance to mention it, but the AC pickup on Elder Titan made breaking that top tower so much easier. Gave them that extra armor, made it just turned what was almost a lost cause already for 4FC into just a free win at this point for OSG. Well played on both sides, but OSG just, out-executed. I think a couple misstep hooks from Krilly throughout the course of the game. Most of them were really good, but there were a couple that were kind of iffy. And that one slightly early engagement in the Radiant Woods, I think that was a big deal, not letting Kunkka be there. Yeah, and part of the issue, I'm going to go back to it, I was harping on it earlier on, leaving an OD unchecked in the early game, usually a recipe for a disaster in the mid and late game, and that's what happened here. OD ending 9-2 and 15, but he wasn't even the troublemaker. Weaver ending that game 18-1 and 5, involved in 18 of the 36 kills. Well, not just involved, picking up 18 of the 36 kills. That Weaver just absolutely dominating this game. He was level 25, and we see not even a single player on 4FC over level 20. So another game in the books here, guys. We got one more match coming up for you guys for Starladder Season 8. Thank you for joining us here on Beyond the Summit. I'm Zyori. Joining me for this cast is Hippie. Make sure you check us both on Twitter at ZyoriTV, at HippieCasting, and of course, show some love to the Beyond the Summit guys at Beyond the Summit on Twitter. One more game coming up.